Hi, my name is Rod Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Multifamily Rockstars. So as you guys know, this is where we interview people that are just flat out crushing it in this business. And we show you the inside scoop into how multifamily investors are creating massive success, not just in their businesses, but also in their lives. And as always, I've got my co-host, who's also the director of my massive action team for our Warrior Group, Mark Nagy, on the call.
Happy to be here, Rod. Excited to have another guest from just about 1 year ago, I think, coming on board the team. So that's always exciting.
Yeah. So we've got Scott Jacobson today, and Scott, well, I'll let you tell his story, but he is, he's into philanthropy, which I'm really excited to talk about because it's such an important part of life, and so we're going to talk about that. But he's since he's been a warrior, I think he's let's see here. Let me look at my notes. Joined a year ago. He's in 90 units so far, 2 deals. He's got another 66 that are scheduled to close in 3 weeks. With Warriors, and so excited to talk shop and get into it. Welcome to the show, brother.
Rod, thank you. Mark, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So why don't you take just a couple minutes or whatever you need to give us a little bit of your trajectory. I started to ask you before we started recording, but just talk about, what where you came from and why real estate, and let's take it away.
Absolutely. So I live in Indianapolis, for what that's worth, and my background is accounting, a CPA by trade. When I graduated college in 2000, to date myself a little bit, I went into first job was for a Big Four accounting firm. Was on the audit side, and I was assigned a mentor at that time. And when we got together, we didn't talk about accounting. Thankfully, we talked about real estate because my mentor. Who again, he was just assigned to me. He had like 100 rentals that he was self-managing here in Indianapolis. So he did his best to get me to think about real estate as well. And before that, I literally had no idea what real estate meant, or what it even had no reason to think that I could ever get into real estate or should get into real estate. But I told him, all right, once I pass the CPA exam, I'll look into this real estate thing. And of course, he told me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that book, from a financial standpoint, literally changed my life. Taught me to look at things in a completely different way. I remember riding around with him in a car. He took me on a tour of Indy, and we were passing some houses. He's like, I own that one over there is mine. I got that one. And my mind was just blown, like as a 23, 24-year-old newly professional. I had no idea how someone could be so nonchalant about talking about things that he owns, and it just it really expanded my mind to think, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. So that was the impetus, I guess, or the catalyst to get me to think about what this real estate thing could mean for me.
Now, I know you'd done it, prior to joining the Warrior program. You did single families, duplexes, and so, you bought an office building. Why did you join our program? I'm just curious.
So like you said, I joined the program about a year ago, but so that would have been 2021. But probably for a few years before that, 3 or 4 years before that, my brain was, my thoughts were thinking about how to scale up. At that point, I had purchased a couple smaller multifamily, a couple 14-unit apartment buildings.
Oh, okay. You did that too. Wow.
I had an office building, but I really had no idea how to scale up beyond that. Those buildings or those properties, I figured out a way could do them on my own, but I had no idea really how to get bigger and
how to raise equity, syndicate, do larger stuff like you're doing now.
And I had invested as an LP, so I knew it could be done. I just had no idea how it could be done. And honestly, Rod, it was your podcast that I had heard many times. You say, if you're interested, text crushed, whatever the number is. And driving down the road one day, I'm like, you know what? It's time to kind of, make an investment in myself, put my money where my brain has been for years. So So
you texted Crush and it's been all downhill since then, right?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, well, I know you mentioned, Scott, that you did a couple of deals earlier on, a 14 unit. I know one you mentioned that you did with $0 out of your pocket. I know I get asked that a lot. Hey, how do I do this with none of my own money, etc.? Tell us about that deal. How'd you do it? What was the structure? Give us kind of the backstory of that deal.
Sure. So at that point, I had a smaller 14 unit prior to that, but it was smaller in dollar amount. But the same broker who introduced me to the first one introduced me to the second one, which is an apartment building downtown Indianapolis here. And it was the first thing I'd looked at that was a 7-figure deal. So they were asking about $1 million. And again, my mind was kind of blown. Like, how am I going to do this? I honestly, I didn't have the money for the down payment. So I had to get kind of creative, and I found a third-party investor that we'll just call my dad, because it was my dad. I had told him, hey, I found this really nice, neat apartment. I'm excited about it, except, I don't have the down payment money. So, I got some dollars sitting in savings, earning nothing. And all he was looking for was a good place to put it and to get some return on it. And I said, all right, well, how about I'll pay you some. All he wanted was interest only. So he gave me a loan, interest only loan, for the down payment, and that's what I used to buy that 14 unit. And
how'd you pay him back?
I still haven't.
You haven't?
5 years ago, and I'm still paying him monthly interest only.
Paying the interest.
It's basically an annuity for him. That's all he wants, kind of safe cash flow. And
wow.
For me, that particular building, I got it for $0, my own dollars, and owned it for about 1.5 years. And then a broker called me up, wanted to purchase it, just out of the blue. And I said no the first 3 or 4 times he asked, but he would ask for a rent roll or a T12, and I said, all right, it's not for sale, but here you go, here's the rent roll, and see what happens. And eventually we came to terms, and I sold that to him, and he helped me buy the office building that you alluded to earlier. So the first 14 unit was $1 million property. The office building was a $2.2 million property. And again, just rolled it together, and $0 out of my own pocket, but it's been cash flowing really nice for about 5 years now. So that one worked really well.
Fantastic. Let me kind of chat about a couple things real quick before we ask the next question. So guys, you absolutely can do what he just described, where you bring somebody in with some money to for a piece of the deal. And in his case, he didn't have to give a piece of the deal. It's his dad. But one thing you can do, and I've seen done many, many times, is you bring somebody in as a joint venture partner or a couple of people, even in some cases, and you bring them in, and you can give them a piece of the deal. You can also give them an interest, return on their money over and above that. So, you can have somebody put up all the money on a deal. They get the first 6, 7, 8%, 3, 4, 5, 6% of the return, and then after that, it's split however you carve it up. And I did. In my 20s, I bought millions of dollars worth of property 50-50 with partners. They put up all the money. They signed on the debt, and they were joint ventures because they signed on the debt. And if I spent more than a certain amount of money, I had to get their permission. Now, please let me preface this. You cannot take money from someone and just give them a return. They have to be actively involved for it to be a joint venture. So guys, there's so many creative ways you can put deals together that really don't require any of your own money. And I should probably do an episode just on that. But anyway, that's an awesome story with your deals there, Scott.
And I wanted to have a follow-up for you, Scott. What's your play in that? Are you still collecting cash flow? Does that all go to your dad? Do you just get a huge chunk of the equity for putting the deal together? What's your piece of the deal? Because I always get asked a lot, how do you make money when other people are bringing money to the deal?
Well, no, he already answered that. His dad's an interest-only loan. He's got the whole thing, right? It's all yours, right, Scott?
That's correct. Yeah. My dad had to sign on the note to the bank as well. So thankfully he was willing to do that, trust me enough to manage it. But I have a property manager, and they handle everything. And then they just once a month cut my dad a check for his interest only payment.
That's fantastic. Now, see, the fact that he signed on the debt, even though he's passive, makes him active. Okay. So, that is absolutely active. Okay. But guys, be careful with that. You cannot you can't take money from someone and give them a return unless they're active. If you do, then that has to be a syndication, and just stroking a check is not something to be intimidated about, but there it is. So let me ask you this, Scott. I mean, you talked about the aha you had with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's so awesome that you had a mentor that took you under his wing to really show you what real estate was about. That's so cool. Are there any other aha or epiphany moments as it relates to this business, or really in general? Doesn't have to just be this business, but anything else come to mind from any epiphanies that you had along your journey here?
The first thing that comes to mind when you say that is after joining the Warrior program. Honestly, previously I've been in real estate for a little over 20 years now. Is when I first read Rich Dad Poor Dad and bought my first single family home, some rentals around the college, university where I went to school. But once I had always done it myself. Everything was my time, my money, my property management, my everything. And one thing that I've really learned, the reason I had no idea how to scale up is because I had a me only kind of mindset, I think. So that's one thing that the joining the Warrior program has really taught me, or opened my eyes, opened my mind, is that having a team is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a great thing, because there's a lot of people out there that know a lot of things that I don't, or have experience in a lot of things that I don't. So I'm still learning, but I'm able to leverage their knowledge and their expertise. And I think that's been the biggest mind opener, or benefit for me so far.
That's awesome. And I will tell you, a lot of people that start out this way themselves really struggle with that piece, myself included, or investing out of state. Man, that I really struggled with that. And so that is a hurdle you have to overcome. But let's talk about team for just a minute. So guys, if you hadn't heard me talk about this, so there are a lot of different hats you can wear. Obviously, I'm guessing you do the underwriting, yes? As a CPA?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Right. That's kind of a no-brainer for me. But you probably create the pro forma and everything else that when you go out and raise money from your investors and all that. But there are lots of other hats you can wear. There can be somebody that handles investor relations and raises money. There could be somebody out there bird dogging deals. Somebody that's got management or project management experience, helping with the asset, or construction experience, helping with the asset management. So there's just lots of different hats you can wear in this business, guys. And it is absolutely a team sport. Everybody does it as a team. And so no, I'm really, and by the way, you mentioned the Warrior program. If you are interested in applying to our Warrior program, text the word crush to 72345. And we will interview you, and you'll interview us. And, we don't take everybody, but if it's a fit, it'll be the best call you ever made in your life. And if not, you'll still leave the call with tons of great insight. So again, you text crush to 72345.
So I know, Rod, you mentioned CPA underwriting. You mentioned that briefly there. Now, Scott, did you come to that conclusion on your own, that, from your background, that you wanted to get into numbers and do underwriting? Did a coach maybe help guide you towards that? How did you find your skill set to bring to a team here?
It's a good question. So probably a year, give or take, before I joined the Warrior program, I knew, obviously my brain thinks in numbers. So I knew that was maybe not easy, but a kind of an obvious way for me to
add
provide value to somebody at some point, right? So I got an underwriting software, and I spent a lot of time learning it, trying to figure out, what, you change a number here, where else does it change the number, that kind of thing. So thankfully, when I joined the Warrior program, I kind of was able to hit the ground running. I just made some posts in the Facebook group, and I said, hey, I'm not an expert, but I've got some background here, got some experience, and I'd love to be a second set of eyes if anyone wants a second set of eyes on your underwriting, or just try to offer my services. And so that's always
you're a very humble guy, buddy. You're a very humble guy. It's really obvious. even though you're a mutant that likes to play around in spreadsheets, we'll leave that. But, but okay, I'm teasing. Hey, when you're talking
Everybody
about,
doesn't
I
love
played
numbers.
around, I played around with deal evaluator software, and the numbers went where I'm like, oh, good God, please, no, that would kill me. But
That's
I mean,
exciting.
and that's why this is a team sport, guys. Because I know how to read a P&L, I know how to look for anomalies, I know how to get through it, but I don't love it. Okay, I love this. I love the communication. I love the education, and so and you've heard me say, if you haven't heard me say, when you're doing what you love and you're adding value to a team, you're first of all, you're never work another day in your life because you love it. Number one. Number two, you're in the zone. Number three, you're passionate, and to influence people, you need to be passionate. And so, it's just a home run when you've got a team that everybody's playing to their strengths. I mean, success is a foregone conclusion. That's just how it works in any business, and especially this business. But so let me ask you this. We've got a lot of people that listen that know they need to do something. I mean, I believe there's incredible opportunity coming in this market that we're in. Everything's going on sale. They're going to continue to raise the interest rates next year. And so 2023, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this business in small, large, you name it, multifamily. What advice would you give to someone that's sitting on the sidelines that maybe through analysis paralysis or fear or limiting beliefs hasn't taken action? Speak to that person.
I guess two things quickly come to mind. The first thing goes all the way back to what we talked about earlier with my mentor. That was over 20 years ago that he told me to get into real estate, and I asked him if I still keep in touch with him quite a lot. And I asked him a few years ago, hey, well, at first I think I said, thanks for kind of turning me on to this real estate thing. But I asked him, who else, how many other people did you convince to look into real estate as as an investment? He said, I think you're actually the only one.
Wow.
So that makes me think, all right, well, you got to do something, right? You say it all the time, Rod, but you got to take action. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Right. And I think that's super easy to say, not as easy to do. So that's one thing. The other thing in terms of
basically to recap, massive freaking action. Just go do it. That's absolutely. It. Okay. All right. Just wanted to put a little exclamation mark on that. Okay.
And in my sense, I did have a little bit of paralysis a few years ago. I said for a few years, my brain, I knew I wanted to scale up. I just didn't know how. And it took honestly joining the Warrior program for me to get over that hump, or to get over that mental hurdle of, how does this happen? So it was bringing in coaches or bringing in other people that have to learn from them. Right. So the other thing, to answer your question, 15, 20 years ago when I started, interest rates did start with a 6 or a 7. And there were things that absolutely made sense to buy back then. So does it make sense? Should we be necessarily concerned right now? Interest rates are going too high. We can't buy anything for 5 more years. I don't think that's true either. It still comes down to the number. There's going to be good deals out there. And maybe here, if things take more of a downturn, there's going to even be better deals out there. But I don't think we should stop looking just because interest rates are rising.
Oh, no. Listen, when I started in the business, we're talking 44 years ago, interest rates were 16, 17, 18%. Okay. And I remember getting excited when they hit 7%. So you can make money in any market. It's just the prices have to adjust, and the returns have to adjust to make them, reasonable. And, now is not a time to be super aggressive. It's a time to be super conservative. Make sure you're being conservative on your exit cap rate, your exit interest rate. When you do a liquidation event in a few years, when you're doing that pro forma, you don't want to be aggressive there. You're raising enough capital for some operating reserves. You're looking at your break even occupancy economically. Just things that the things that you were always doing, but you're going to sharpen the pencil a little bit more right now. That's all. So, there you go.
So I want to take a step back here a little bit. Obviously, you've done both, right? Single family, multifamily. We've talked about team, et cetera. A question I get all the time, Scott, is like, okay, how much money can be made in multifamily compared to single family? What are the differences, and how do you make money if you're not using your own money, et cetera? I know you've done both, like a lot of our students that we talk to. Why did you decide to make that jump up to multifamily in terms of just your mindset around making money and scalability?
For me, the reason I wanted to make the jump, I guess, is because I was tired of being the property manager and the one that was doing all the work on the single family. I still definitely have some of them, but I may not for a while. See how the next few years in this multifamily world treat me. But my goal is definitely to do that so that I can kind of leverage, again, being on the team and taking a smaller slice of a bigger pie, I guess, and letting other people help me manage the whole process from start to finish. And I guess that was the reason I made the jump.
Got it. Well, sometimes I'll ask, what's your superpower or your skill set, but that's a no-brainer. I mean, you're a CPA, for God's sakes. I mean, there's no question where you can add the most value. That was like a foregone conclusion. But for some of you, you may not know what it is. And for some of you, it may just be your incredible personality to go out there and meet, people and bring deals in and bring money in and bring, investors and so on and so forth. So don't everybody's got a superpower. When we have our warrior meetings, we'll do a warrior event. We just had one in Sarasota here, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and almost 300 people there. And I have everybody get up and network, and I have them say, tell the group, get in a group of 5, tell them what your superpower is, because everybody's got one. And so you just have to look in the mirror and think about how you could add value to a team and go make it happen, regardless. But I want to shift to something else for a minute. I want to end on this, actually, because I think it's probably the most important thing we're going to talk about. We had when I had my Denver boot camp, we did a Hall of Fame for our warriors, where we picked what we thought were the 10 of the most exemplary warriors that we have, for a whole lot of reasons. It wasn't just their own personal, growth in the program and all the units they purchased and so on, but it was also their contribution to the group and how they wanted to help other warriors and so on and so forth. And we did a PowerPoint slide for each one of them, and I noticed a pattern. Every single one of them did something philanthropically, from building schools in India to raising money for veterans, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, to building homes for homeless veterans, to, sexual trafficking, every single thing you could think of. And every one of them did something like that. Tell us about your charity, Scott. I was so blown away when I saw that on your bio.
Sure. Yeah, it's called the Sun Foundation.
Like SON, Sun, right?
SON, yeah, and we turned it into an acronym for serving others' needs. But it came around in 2012 because at that point, my wife, she was teaching 4th grade, and she was job sharing, so kind of half day every day, with her best friend named Tiffany. And at that point, right towards the end of the school year, Tiffany was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Wow. And of course, that's life-altering news. Tiffany took the rest of the year off, and my wife, Denise, finished the school year. But then as the summer went on, Denise spent all her time taking care of Tiffany, or taking her to appointments and just doing whatever she could for their family, because life gets turned upside down pretty quickly in that instance. And she decided she didn't want to go back to teaching that next school year, because she didn't really want to go back without Tiffany, and the school corporation gave them both a year off, kind of a sabbatical, figure out what to do. And my wife was volunteering downtown Indianapolis. Here we have something called the Ronald McDonald House, which a lot of people are probably familiar with. Of course, yeah. And she just kind of made an offhand comment, do you see any needs that aren't being met here, to some of the nurses there. And one of them said, we feel bad, but we get adults calling here sometimes, ask if they can stay here. And they said, well, we feel bad because we have to tell them no, because Ronald McDonald House is for kids who are the patients. The parents can stay there, but the child has to be the patient. So I still remember it was like it was yesterday. That night, Denise and we went on a family bike ride, and she just kind of casually telling that story, and a light bulb just kind of went off in both of our heads, I think, at the same time. At that point, we had 8 to 10 years of real estate experience. We had some rentals, and I was like, hey, we're not going to buy a high-rise apartment like the Ronald McDonald House, but maybe we can buy a house in Indianapolis, and we can open it up to let adults who are cancer patients stay there. Cancer was obviously heavy on our heart and in our mind at that point from Tiffany. And so that just, we had no idea how we were going to do it. We had never been in the hospitality business before, but the idea of buying a house. It didn't scare us because we'd been doing it for 10 years already.
Sure.
So we just, I guess that was the first time we figured out how to
And you
partner
bought a
up.
home near the hospital, I take it.
Near the hospital. Yeah, it's
Right.
just 5 minutes away. It's a
Yeah.
fairly big 6-bedroom, 4-bath house that
Nice.
the first time we saw it online, we said, no, it's too ugly, too big.
Right.
But within an hour after touring it, we said, this is the perfect house. We got to put an offer down. And we didn't know how we're going to do it, but we just pulled a group together from different people from different walks of our life. And just the right person came into our life at the right time to figure out how to set up a 501c3 and how to get the house renovated and open to guests. And, we're having our 10th anniversary in 2023, and just over, I think, 6,500 nights of free lodging have
6,500 nights of free lodging to cancer patients, guys. Yeah.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, this is what we call a clue, my friends. Those power moves to those who serve, and you serve in a big way, but that's just the way God works. The universe works. And when you give back, we've all been taught we need to achieve to be happy. When you give back, you're happily achieving, and success comes so much faster, and the money comes so much faster. And that's not why you do it. But when I saw that on the 10 Hall of Famers, I'm like, holy shit, the guys there's, and I pointed it out to the 800 people there. I'm like, that's what we call a clue, my friends. Okay. And I'm really impressed, brother. Really impressed, Scott. I got to tell you, what you've done here is just extraordinary. My daughter, had to spend 8 months in Moffitt Cancer Center, 8 months in hospital for her bone marrow leukemia, and she's now in remission, thank God. But she, it was really tough, and I had to rent a place for my ex-wife to be up there by the hospital, because it's quite a ways away from, it's over an hour drive, and so I rented a place. Luckily, I could afford it, but a lot of people, can't afford to have help like that, and so. That's an awesome thing you did, brother. And I'm really, really impressed. But listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. Really excited to see where you are a year from now, man. We got to get you back on here, because I know you're going to do great things, and it's a foregone conclusion. But great to see you, my friend.
I really appreciate it. It's been an honor and privilege. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Take care.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our Warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com, or text the word CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. Again, to apply, text CRUSH to 72345.